Hi, I'm Joey Bachrach, and I'm an alcoholic.
And I'm Janae Borrego, the Chief Clinical Officer here at Rainbow Hill Recovery.
And I'm Rory Slikker. I am a clinical outreach specialist. I'm also an addict, and I work with Rainbow Hill Recovery.
And this is Totally Sober.
Alcoholic on the scene, we're sharing stories about a life once me. Got the courage, now I'm feeling so free. Each shows a mark on the journey of me. Recovery's the vibe, it's a dance we embrace. Hope on the rise, we're changing the space. Join us in this rhythm, feel the beat alive. Totally sober, we're breaking the chains. Tagging every moment, wiping away the stains. Together we stand, ain't nothing to hide. Your favorite normie and alcoholic with pride. Reach out and feel, let's lift up the crowd. Together in this, we're shouting it loud. Hopes in our hearts, let the music play. Champion our lives, this is the way.
So today we have a very special guest. His name is Rory, and I might be a little biased only because we are so incredibly fortunate to have you as part of our Rainbow Hill family. So welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah,
I'm
it's
excited about this.
we've known you for a couple of years now, so it's truly an honor that you're able to do this with us. So thank you. And we'd like to get to know who you are, and for our audience to get to know who you are as a person, your recovery story, where you came from, and all the fun stuff, and maybe not the so pretty stuff. So I'll let you take it away with introducing yourself and where you come from.
Again, Rory, I'm an addict. I'm an addict in recovery. We've known each other for a little bit now, and oh man, let's see where I'm at today. I'm a helper. The change agent thing sounds cheesy anytime somebody mentions it, but I do. I believe in that. Like I don't save people's lives. I help people save their own life. That's the mission, and that I think. If I align myself with my mission, then everything else just kind of falls into place behind it. And I am also the co-founder of the LGBTQ Association for Addiction and Mental Health Professionals, with a very similar mission of helping our community learn more about what resources are available to them, which was a big part of the reason why I didn't seek help for my own issues sooner, is just not knowing what was available to me. So the goal with that is to allow professionals to come together and coordinate care for their clients in a safe and affirming space. Okay, so yeah, the addiction stuff, I think I got asked today, actually. We were at a luncheon for AMP, for the LGBT Association, and somebody asked me, how did you end up here? And I'm like, oh man, where do you even start with that kind of a question, right? In short, it was very kismet. I needed a job. I had some experience in some customer service stuff. I was newly sober, and I said yes to an opportunity. I learned with an agency what I liked about the industry and what I didn't like about the rehab industry, or the addiction recovery industry. And the rest is kind of history. I worked through various types of roles in the behavioral health space, from admissions, outreach, alumni stuff, to more clinical roles. I was a clinical assessor where I, helped establish treatment plans and discharge plans, and did a lot of case management for one agency, and then did some consult work and helped another program build out its LGBT affirming program, or at least be a little bit more sensitive to our community. And over the years, just kind of honed in on what it is that I wanted to do with my life, what I wanted to be when I grew up. I hate that question.
Yeah.
It's the scariest question
Yes.
ever. What do you want to be when you grow up? Because I really still don't know, but I think I have a better idea today. How I ended up newly sober is I had problems with feeling othered from a very young age. I think that's pretty common for most queer people, is not feeling a part of. I grew up in a small town, oldest of 4 kids, to 2 very, very young parents, and I set the stage with this because, not because like the origin story starts at birth for me, but because there were a lot of learned behaviors in that type of environment that totally turned into survival skills in my active addiction and have helped me relate more to my peers today and help, carry a message to folks who are seeking help today. I had to be a parent at a very young age. 14 was the man of the house, so to speak, while I was also battling coming to terms with my sexuality. I was a really, really good chameleon, right? And that being a parent thing was a part of that as well. It was like it was being whatever was needed from me at that time, as opposed to having some autonomy and doing what I wanted to do. So that question today, well, what do you want? What do you want for dinner? What do you want is a terrifying question to me because I still want to look at the space and figure out what is best needed for this scenario, right? And having some individuality was something I struggled with for a really long time and still, quite frankly, do. I thrived in school. I was great in sports. I did band, but I was also, the varsity wrestling captain. So like you couldn't touch me. I had to be on everybody's good side because it kept me from being bullied in the small town of Lompoc that I'm from. Through high school, I matured very, very quickly, or at least I thought I did. And I moved out at 16 and I moved into a less than healthy environment where we drank all the time. And, I got to be an adult at 16, right? And I lived with people who were very much so okay with me being an adult at 16 years old. I ended up moving out of my hometown when I was 18 because during that, few year period, I finally came to terms with the fact that I found men attractive and that I was, pursuing men at an unhealthy rate at a very, very young age. We joked. I learned a term called nature's credit card, which is relying on myself and what God gave me to cash in on the things, right? And nature's credit card got me very, very far at a young age, right? Men wanted something young and nice, and I wanted the things, whether it was booze or drugs or a place to stay. That was another survival skill that I held close. Like that was like my anchor. Fast forward, I think I was 19 when I seroconverted and became HIV positive. At this point in my life, I was no stranger to sex work, to relying on the kindness of strangers, to having a very, very sexually promiscuous and risky lifestyle. And all that diagnosis gave me was free reign to kind of do the things that I wanted to do with the type of people that I wanted to do those things with. And it just kind of broadened the horizons. I'm really grateful I had some people in my life looking out for me at the time that helped me get on a good HIV cocktail. I also wasn't very far behind PrEP being widely available. So I was on the tail end of the really significant HIV stigma, I would say. I mean, HIV is still very largely stigmatized, and I don't want to short that, but I think that 2012, 2013 time when PrEP was becoming available, and right before we learned that being undetectable means being untransmittable. All that to say is that I'm very privileged and very fortunate with the timing of that. I'm going to jump for a second. When I first got sober, somebody asked me. I remember telling somebody that I was really, really regretful of having ever picked up drugs, and that if I could just go back to the life that I had before I ever picked up crystal meth, which was my drug of choice, I would much rather just pick up where I left off, and I tried to recreate the life that I had. And somebody asked me to spell out and write out what did your life look like. And that life from 19, 20, 21 was miserable. It was miserable. There were some things that being that young, you get to kind of go out and do the things and party and enjoy life, and but my alcoholism, my addiction was running rampant. And it wasn't necessarily that I had direct consequences of drinking or drugging. It was that I was using them to numb out feelings, to drown out traumas from my adolescence, to to garner the kindness of complete strangers, right? It was all of that. That's addict alcoholic behavior as I define it. You know, those are. I have a feeling. I want to change the feeling. I'm going to take the substance to get rid of that feeling because I cannot manage or handle that feeling all by myself.
Yeah.
It's also exhausting.
It's exhausting. Gosh, you know, without going too deep into the big book stuff, but the one thing that really resonated with me was with like the idea of the chemist, right? And that was my story. It was like, I'm gonna go out. I'm gonna pregame. I'm gonna hit up Fiesta Cantina for 2-for-1s as a minor with my fake ID and get the most bang for my buck.
Yep. Yes.
Been there, done that.
Yeah. Those teas, those like massive,
No big margaritas.
yeah, no business, you know. And then while the rest of my friends were like, you know, can I curse on here?
Yeah.
Shit faced drunk.
Plastered, wasted, fucked up.
Well, they were all just like totally gone. I was like, I want to keep going. And so it was chasing the Coke. And then when I was jittery and sick, it was finding the Xanax so that I could go to sleep and just like constantly looking for and I really felt like I had it locked down, right? There's a sense of accomplishment when like, yes, I sought out the booze to take away the feeling, and then I sought out the upper so that I could keep going, but then I needed the downer to do the thing. And then when that all goes according to plan, there's a sense of like, this is good. I can do this.
Yes.
Yeah. And it worked until it didn't, you know, until I wasn't getting drunk anymore, or until I moved from Long Beach to West Hollywood. And, you know, one of the scariest moments in my active alcoholism was I had lived in my place in West Hollywood for some time now, and I have no recollection of this at all. But at some point, I left the clubs with my fake ID. I'm underage at this time, you know. I had left the clubs, and then the next thing I remember is I'm waking up in my car parked in front of my old house in Long Beach. And if you're not familiar with Los Angeles, there's a freeway called the 710, and it is it's a busy freeway at most hours of the night because of the semis and the shipping yards and stuff like that. It's also a relatively scary road to drive, period, let alone in a blackout. And that terrified me. And I kept that secret for forever because I didn't want to tell anybody that like I have no memory of getting in my car and driving the 45 minutes to an hour it takes to get from West Hollywood through Boys Town, through West Hollywood, right? With all the craziness that goes on there, to the freeway, all the way to my old house in Long Beach. And thank God nobody was harmed in that process. But I remember thinking like, oh, you've got a problem with alcohol, right? And my solution was to just not drink alcohol and switch to the other things. So that QGHB and the other party drugs. This type of lifestyle went on for a long time, you know. And eventually each of those substances stopped doing what I had intended them to do, and the consequences came in. Before I knew it, I was a daily meth user. I gave up a really significant relationship. The one, you know, we have the one, the man that on the pedestal, he was the one. And I gave that up for drugs. You know, towards the end of our relationship, I started using again. And from that point on, when he ended the relationship, I was a daily user for the next 2 years. It was bad. The underbelly of the meth community is so dark. We talk about the sacred witching hour of the meth community. It's that like 3 a.m. to like 6 a.m. or 2 a.m. to 5 a.m. hours, where like you have no business being out and about in those times. And the people that you see, I was the people you see at those hours. I was the one walking down the street with the backpack. The type of tweaker that I was too, like that idea of needing to be needed and blending in, and the chameleon piece of stuff that came from like adolescence. Also, total tangent. I can speak about a lot of this stuff only because I've done a lot of work around it today. In the 12 steps, we talk about an inventory, and that the inventory taught me to do something called questioning my stories. A lot of this was a story. Like I knew the parts of my story that had zing and like, you know, dramatic effect. And I learned how to question all of that by way of for me, the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous and Narcotics Anonymous. And I learned what was true versus what was exaggerated. So all of this needed to speak. Like that was uncovered as a result of finally asking for help and having somebody help me decipher what was fact versus fiction in my life. Anyway, that needing to be needed, that blending in stuff. The type of tweaker that I was the type of tweaker that carried around a backpack with like, your torch ran out of butane. I've got 4 different kinds in here. Which brand do you prefer? You don't have a charger or a cable to that thing here. I've got like 15 cables that don't go to shit. Do you want one?
Rory stayed ready.
She was ready. Yeah. I have a silicone bong. I've got a glass bong. I got all the types of paraphernalia you could ever imagine to do it any type of way. But that mentality took me to really dark places. I associated with IV drug users and learned how to admin for IV drug users because I wanted to belong with them. That realization, in the moment, it felt like, yeah, you're just kind of doing the thing. And if I'm speaking to another addict who's in recovery, they'd be like, yeah, no problem. Somebody spit out a tooth at the sex party next to me and nobody batted an eye. Like, we can talk about those things and there's an understanding about it. Having done a little bit of work around this, I now realize the danger that comes with that and how dark and severe something like that is. I'm not a lobotomist. I have no training in any of this, right? If somebody would have gone septic or died, that's murder. That's manslaughter. That's a life on my hands at my expense. Not their decision for me to hit them, but me. Yeah. So my disease, my addiction took me to some really dark places. Meanwhile, during this whole time, I'm relying on sex work. And Nature's credit card is not getting me as much as it used to. I found myself in Palm Springs because the drugs were cheaper and the rent was cheaper and all that kind of stuff. And it's about 2019. I have been running the streets. I don't have a physical address that isn't a Motel 6. Can't exactly get mail at a Motel 6. And it just got darker and darker. I was running the streets at this point for the last 2 years with somebody who would later be my entryway into program. He and I looked out for each other. I loved him dearly. We both had the wherewithal to know that there's no such thing as any kind of relationship while you're kind of addicted. I'm grateful for that. I had my wits about me enough to know that meth in the picture for me means that there can be no other priorities in my life. I knew that. And I had conceded to my innermost self long time ago that as long as this thing is here, even another person that I could love and devote my life to and with could never take precedence over this substance. And I knew that. What I didn't know was how to get out of it. January 2020, he and I woke up one morning and he was gone. His life had gotten so terrible. I can share about this. He's found his way into the rooms and I'm sure he'd appreciate some of this. But his life had gotten so terrible alongside mine that he needed to make the change, and he chose to put recovery first. That was the first time I had ever seen that happen, because loyalty and faith and community and these things that I weaponized while I was out there, he showed me by way of his actions that the only way he could have a life worth living was if he decided to put his recovery first. So he got sober in January of 2020. Set the stage too. January 2020, the Wuhan COVID coronavirus stuff is looming, but we don't really know what that means for us. In my current state of paranoia, I was terrified of being arrested, or the police or the military or any of that kind of stuff, the force. And there was a lot of that going on around the world, right? We were seeing in China the military being used to forcibly keep people indoors. There were talks about I think even in West Hollywood, the sheriff being on patrol at 9 p.m. and setting curfews and stuff like that. And that was all terrifying. I got really, really sick. End of February of 2020, I was sleeping on a couch with fellow tweakers who were also sick, that I had gotten sick. I had 104-degree fever for the course of a week, not good. I was 102 pounds, not eating anything, just sick and disgusting. And this was one of countless times that I had looked at myself in the mirror and wondered, how the hell did I end up here? I was a good kid, I did all of the things in school, had a good head on my shoulders. I never intentionally harmed anybody, and I felt like my parents had raised me right. How did I end up here? It got to a point where I was like, okay, I've got to start doing the things. And I was in a situationship where like I was now home, who kicked me out, was now homeless and kind of living in his garage, but not technically. He didn't know I was living in his garage. I was living in his garage. And
Off the record.
Off the record.
Allegedly.
Sorry, Bachrach. And I called. We have a Desert Days Project, DAP Health, and they told me to call 211. They were tired of my shit, basically. They were like, we can't help you, call 211. 211 is a county service line that is available for folks who are facing job insecurity, housing insecurity, financial insecurity, and they connect people with county resources for this kind of stuff. I called them, and they basically told me that there was nothing they could do for me. And the fact remained that I am a cisgendered, white, non-veteran male, very capable of working. I have no dependents. Like, there's no reason why I should not be a contributing member to society. If I want help, I'm going to have to put in some work. It's not going to be readily available to me at this time. And that kind of sat with me. And I remember sitting with this woman on the phone who was very clearly sick and tired of my shit. She was just, I don't know what to do for you. If you're sick, go to the hospital. If you want to stay sober, then stay sober. And it seemed like so simple. And I was like, but you don't understand. And I remember hearing a bunch of commotion in the background too, while on the phone with her. And she rushes me off the phone, and I'm like, this bitch is she's just tired of me, right? And I sat with my thoughts. The first time somebody had really been told, straight up with me, there's no reason why you cannot get sober. If you really are willing to do the work and willing to do the thing, then do the things. She rushed me off the phone. I'm moseying around Palm Springs because I'm homeless. I got a backpack full of nonsense still. And she calls me back and says, you have no choices. You have to go to a hospital. We are going into lockdown. And we knew that this was coming. Shelter in place was coming, but we didn't know when. We knew that, I think, the day before San Francisco had just gone into lockdown for COVID. Excuse me. And I was like, oh, fuck. All right, this is the time. And in that moment, I didn't realize that, I didn't think that sobriety was coming for me. I didn't realize that I was going to be getting into recovery. But I knew I didn't want to get locked up instead of locked in place, right? Sheltered in place. So I didn't want to be locked up instead of locked down. It's got a ring to it. Put that on t-shirt somewhere. So I took her suggestion. I went to the hospital. I was sick. I had flu-like symptoms. And they released me from the hospital the next night with a $10 Subway gift card and a taxi ride anywhere in the Coachella Valley. And I just went to the Subway. I moseyed around the street, and there was a lot of time with me and my thoughts. And that was one of the first nights, one of only a handful of nights where I was truly homeless, slept on a park bench homeless instead of homeless, AKA one grinder hookup to the next. And I remember just feeling like, I'm done. I cannot keep doing this. And for whatever reason, of the hundreds of times that I had that thought, this one really felt like, then don't. That was the response that I remember feeling. I would later credit that to my first act of surrender, taking the suggestion, doing what was asked of me, and that surrender that happened, I believe, was kind of putting good karma into the universe, because at 7:30, 5 a.m. the next morning, that same woman who rushed me off the phone called me and said, we're rounding up homeless folks. We're giving them hotel vouchers for the next 2 weeks to 6 months, depending on shelter in place. And the reason I got one was because I'm HIV positive. All of the homeless shelters were put at a cap of 10 people max instead of the 75 because shelter in place rules, right? And that call came on March 17th, 2020. I don't know what it was, but I walked into that hotel, and it was this crusty ass, tweaky, freaking, disgusting motel. Sorry, Musicland Hotel, but it was. It was a little rough around the edges. I remember walking in, and again, no thought that I'm going to get sober, but the thought that I have was just relief, just exhale. And I remember crying on the bed and thinking this, I can be done. And that was it. That was day one. That was the last time I put a drink or a drug in my system was on March 16th, 2020. And I was so off my rocker when I was on the phone with this woman that my sobriety date is March 17th, 2020. God and Rory willing, on March 17th, I'll have 5 years clean and sober.
Congratulations. 5 years.
Crazy. I called, my recovery journey began because I called that man that I was kind of running the streets with and told him that I had found my way, and I was given a hotel. Now, in my backpack, I had tried to let school save me many times. So like I had a laptop from school, tweaker cables, butane, some tarot cards, some other random shit.
Yeah.
I know, the whole thing. And he told me about Zoom meetings. And so as crazy as it was to come into the rooms the day we went into lockdown for COVID-19, I think the craziest part of the story is that I stayed sober for that first year of only Zoom meetings.
Wow.
Only virtual recovery. I didn't hug another human being until I took a 90-day chip.
Wow.
Like no physical human contact for 90 days.
Yeah.
The county brought me food, but it was, it's funny. I go through pictures as the anniversary gets closer, and I kind of think about like just like what that was like. Sorry, we're in Los Angeles. We've got some weather, and I think we have thunder, so that's what that was for. We don't get that very often here.
So, question.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing your story.
Sure.
It's such a vulnerable thing to do, right? For the greater cause. How do you show up for yourself now? Like to be able to to have that story into, if you don't know Rory is just a beast out here in regards to advocacy for our community. At such a young age, like what is taking you from being the survivor every day to now this thriving human being?
Yeah. I think when I learned that my story is my superpower, that was, the truth is my higher power, whatever you want to call it. I think that did a lot for me. I am a very firm believer that I cannot live the rest of my life today without continuing to put in some work and continuing to work on myself and better myself so that I can show up for others. Yeah. However, on my hardest of days, I remember just how rough those first 30, 60, 90 days were. And that if I got through that, having put in the amount of work that I put in those early days, like I can get through what I'm going through today, no matter what it is. And that's the message that I hope to carry to other people, that like, no matter what it is, what type of facility you may be exploring to go into for treatment, what kind of recovery you have access to, we can get better if we choose to. There is an option there. You do not have to run. Those are like mantras that I try to hold on to.
Yeah, which is funny that you bring that up, because I was going to ask you something along those lines. What advice would you give to somebody who is just starting their recovery journey?
Yeah, be open-minded. I stick with the winners. I don't necessarily agree with winner.
Winners are overrated.
Yeah, winner culture.
Stick with your tribe.
Find your tribe. But what I found was stick with the people who are loving their life today. That for me meant a lot. It wasn't the people that had all the shiny things and bells and whistles. It was the people who enjoyed the humbleness. Today, the people that I hold most important in my own recovery are the people who struggled and maintained their sobriety. Or, the person who I hold. One of the people that I hold in highest regard in my sobriety today, he had 18 years sober, relapsed, and clawed his way into 2 years now. Yeah. I worship that man, and he like that type of story is something that I try to hold on to. So for somebody who's new to recovery, find people where the actions show that the work can be that it can be done. Yeah. Let their work ethic show that it can be done. If you're in treatment, it's not the people who are coasting through groups, it's the people who are uncovering, discovering, and discarding the real issues that led to them being in treatment in the first place. Yeah. If you're in meetings, it's not the person on the phone. It's the person who says, "Sure, I'll make coffee for the next meeting." That kind of stuff. I didn't realize how important that would be for my life today, but it's like those type of foundational values are values that I adhere to today.
Yeah.
Well, is there anything that you would like to ask us? Because I know we're running out of time very soon, but I do have
rambling.
Yeah, it's all good. We're learning we were in, so yeah. I learned so much about you.
Yeah.
And I love it.
Yeah.
So it's good.
Question for you folks. I love to know, what is it about serving our community, the queer community, the LGBTQ community, the addicted population that has drawn you to kept you in it, even on the hardest of days? Because I know I have many days where I'm just like, fuck this shit. But like, there's always a thing. There's always a thing that I'm just like, but I couldn't.
Yeah.
What is that for you?
Well, the reason why I know why Andrew and I do it is because there are very few programs that offer what we do. So having an LGBT specific program, I think, is extremely important. I mean, I can name them literally on my hand. There's us, there's La Fuente, who's phenomenal, and the Pride Institute, which is in the middle of the country.
Right.
That's 3. We have LGBT affirming programs that cater to our community, but they're not exclusively queer. And so when we opened the house back in 2021, we our clients were promised something that they weren't getting.
Right.
And so it's like, we could be like everybody else, but we've already done so much. Yes, we could be full tomorrow if we open our doors to everybody, but that's not who we are as people or as a program. So even on our toughest days, we know that we're doing it for the right reasons. Yeah, well, at least that's why we're doing it.
Yeah. To be honest, I don't know why I do it every day. You know, but something inside of me says this is exactly where I need to be. And, you know, I think it's very much like you said, I'm not in recovery, you know, but like a lot of queer people, we all have our journeys. And I think that's one thing Joey and myself talked a lot about, like Joey being in recovery, like me being in my own recovery as a queer person who grew up in a conservative environment, and ultimately having a lot of trauma and having to persevere and thrive through that, right? And also there was a period in my life where alcohol was my friend too, because that's what us queer people like to do. We like to party, we like to dance, and you know, when you're dealing with something, you don't know that formula could be really bad, right? So I think whether I want to or not, I just always want to be a vessel to help people change, because I know what it was like to kind of feel lost and to feel depressed and to feel anxious and to feel like I was alone in that, or that I was a weirdo for being that, and just wanting to people to know that like it's just human to go through that, and like a lot of people, everybody struggles, and pain is universal, but so is love, so is healing, and I just want people to remember that through my work.
Yeah, so we're gonna end this interview with one final question. What advice would you tell your younger self, and why?
It's okay to be young. It's okay to be a kid. Like that. What that translates to for me today is it's okay to be new. Oh man, gosh, if that's one of my biggest character defects or character flaws, or whatever you want to call it, is the idea that I have to be an expert at everything. I have to be the adult. I have to do the thing. Like that's, if I could go back and change that and let my younger self, go to the science fair, excel in sports instead of choosing to drink, like just be a kid. It's like stay young. Those are things that I try to reintroduce in my life today, is like joy, which by the way, queer joy is resistance and whatever. I think I try to have joy in my life today because I didn't allow that. I didn't allow myself to have that when I was younger, when I could have.
Yeah.
Well, I want to say thank you so much for taking the time to be on our show. We're very lucky to have you as a part of our team and our family.
I'm the lucky one.
Well, where can everyone find you?
I'm on the corner of La Brea and Santa Monica.
Not anymore.
Not anymore. Instagram, Mr. Slikker, or Mr. I don't know. LinkedIn if we're professionals.
Yes.
Yeah, LinkedIn's probably the better way. We're professionals now. Or at Rainbow Hill Recovery at an AMP meeting near you. First Thursdays of the month. Right now they're at Superba.
And this is who you'll be calling. You'll be talking to every single time. Whoever calls the admissions line, you'll most likely
That's
get
me.
Rory. Well, on that note, we want to say thank you so much, and we'll see you next time.
Alcoholic on the scene, we're sharing stories about a life once me. Got the courage, now I'm feeling so free. Each
Can you
day's
hear
a
me?
mark on the journey of me. Recovery's the vibe, it's a dance we embrace. Hope on the rise, we're changing the
Perfect.
space.
So today,
Join us
we're
in
live
this
too.
rhythm, feel the beat alive.
Yes.
Totally sober.